Good morning, everybody. I'm sure you've all heard this before, but it still tickles me, so I'm going to tell it again. On his very first parachute jump, Private Jones could not get his canopy to deploy. Free falling out of control, he saw to his amazement a woman rocketing upward toward him. "Know anything about parachutes?" he yelled. "Sorry," she shouted. "Know anything about gas grills?" Oh, that tickles me so much. I'm not so sure more knowledge or information is what either of these two needed at that moment. You know what I mean? But it seems that we, as a culture, worship knowledge and information. We want to understand, why things have happened, what dangers are ahead, what the outcome will be if I say this or do that. Knowledge is equated with control, and control is equated with safety. Yet the truth is, there are many things that we simply cannot understand. Intellectual analysis simply is not sufficient. On the other hand, have you ever had a strong sense that there is something you need to do or say? Maybe some change you need to make in your life or situation? Are you like me? Have you ever resisted or at least procrastinated in taking action because it didn't seem rational or even entirely real, or you were afraid of the consequences? Well, I used to do that a lot more than I do today. At this point in my life, I have simply accumulated enough evidence to convince me that there is ongoing communication between my mind and divine mind. Call it intuition, if you will, but I think there's more to it than that. Right from the get-go, I want to draw a distinction between obsessive thinking, or what we like to call monkey mind, when detailed planning or intellectual analysis are running rampant through our heads. I'm sort of stuck a little bit in that detail part right now myself. What I'm trying to describe here is when someone's name or face keeps coming to mind, or when you sense a calling to do something that may or may not make logical sense at the moment, but which keeps on recurring. It simply won't let you go. There seems to be a heart connection in these kinds of thoughts, a quality of longing that beckon us to slow down, get still, and make room for our power of imagination to speak. It may bring us pictures. It might say in the stillness, "I don't know exactly why it seems important to do this thing. I'm not sure about the timing or even how to do it, but something in me knows I am supposed to pay attention and honestly consider the possibility." There are a few questions I like to ask myself at times like these. Does the idea give me energy or drain energy out of me? Is it powered by love or by fear? Will it require me to let go of something that I've been clinging to and step into the unknown? When life energy, love, faith, and courage are either present or required, I think, oh boy, another blankety blank opportunity to grow. I could say no to it, but that thought has a deadness all around it. So I take a deep breath, call forth my spiritual power of will, and follow the thought. Though there may still be some resistance, typically, a new quality has entered the picture. quality you heard a little about last week, that quality of willingness. Whether we are fully aware of it or not, we all came to unity seeking a new relationship with our Creator, deeper spiritual integrity, and a more practical and authentic philosophy for living. Most of us were completely overjoyed to find acceptance, open-heartedness, laughter, hugs, and kindness. We resonated with the lessons we heard in the message, in the meditation, in the music. We had found our spiritual home and we were no longer alone. Many of us, myself included, wept with joy, probably for the first 6 weeks. And yet, haven't you noticed, I've heard this said by people, that unity seems to have a revolving door. People come and go. They receive the message, feel better, and then go back to living the same way they've always lived. All of us who have ever been in love know what it feels like when the honeymoon is over. Yuck. We do cherish that high. We want to hold on to it. We don't want to give it up. We may even think something seems to have gone wrong. I no longer feel giddy with happiness every single day. If we're fortunate, we have a wise friend or mentor or minister or therapist who empathizes, but also tells us the truth, this truth, that true love does not even begin to develop until the honeymoon is over. This is a turning point. The opportunity and the challenge to come to grips with our co-creative power, that faculty of will. We don't find easy answers in unity. We don't find preachers who tell us what to do. We don't find a God who intervenes in our lives or makes everything go our way or protects us from the pain of living. The truth is, relatively few newcomers are willing to stay after the honeymoon and step into the incredibly powerful universe called personal responsibility. A world where God is not to blame for our difficulties, and neither are other people. But those who hang in there and dive into the journey of personal healing, spiritual growth, and authentic love find a fullness of life that they had never even thought possible. Our co-founder, Charles Fillmore, calls will the executive faculty because it is the power to execute truth principles, to put them to work. Through study and a powerful sense of commitment to ourselves, we can gradually grow into the realization of the enormous God power within us and all around us, and know that there is an exchange of that energy going on at every moment. Our lives are changed forever then. Nothing seems the same because we're looking through an entirely different lens. Through the faculty of will, we exercise our co-creative power. We've received a divine idea, we've listened for the guidance of spirit, and centered in principle. Now it's time to go to work. It's our power of will that gets us up off the couch. Through will, we choose the values that will guide our lives. Through will, we do our spiritual study and our personal healing work. Through will, we're able to do the right thing rather than simply the easiest or most convenient thing or most popular thing. Through will, we stand for our truth and act on our guidance. Why, without the power of will, we would each remain a great big ball of wishful thinking. While the prayerful use of the power of will enables us to take action, it is never compulsive or impulsive. As a matter of fact, whenever I feel that sense of urgency about something, I really have come to realize that it's time to stop. Just sit there, to keep still. But if this is not your style, if instead you're the type that tends to chew on an idea forever before doing anything about it, your power of will can also help. Use it to create a practice plan. Start with little things. When someone asks you to go someplace and you don't really feel like going, don't go. If you're asked to do something, even at church, and you don't really want to do it, say no. Practice waiting for something to feel natural and right, and then say yes with clarity and confidence. Over the years, I've seen Unity folks do beautiful, gutsy things, like reopening their hearts after a terribly painful loss or divorce, or walking away from an abusive 30-year relationship, or coming out after a lifetime of hiding their true nature, or stepping in to that first AA meeting. I still remember Larry. You might remember him too, Billy, from Unity in Greensboro, who at 50 decided to give up his lucrative house painting business and follow his dream of becoming an IT tech, about as big a change in career as I could even think of. Larry did a whole lot of personal work before he took that leap. He worked with a support group to help clear some of the emotional baggage that undermined his confidence. He did a lot of inner spiritual work to bolster his faith in the universe and in himself. He studied his Unity principles. Sure, it took a while to get from the idea to the college registrar, but then it seems to me, or it's my experience, that it always takes time and personal work to become the person who can take a major life-changing action and be successful. Larry's is a story of power. He didn't know for sure whether he was capable of learning the technical intricacies of computer networks. He didn't know where he was going to get the money to pay the tuition and the rent. But when he was emotionally and spiritually ready, he took that leap. And we watched him struggle for almost a year, painting houses during the day, taking classes and studying into the wee hours of the night, totally giving up his social life, but he persevered. All of this required him to exercise his God-given power of will. Last I heard, Larry was not only working as a successful network engineer, but he was also thinking seriously about getting an advanced degree. It was truly an inspiration to me and to a lot of us to witness Larry taking one bold step after another, steadily moving toward that dream in his heart. While the faculty of will may move us into decisive action, it also gives us another power, one that's not talked about as much, but one that, boy, have I had to work on a lot. The faculty of will gives us the power to wait. Not in the sense of procrastination now, that's fear-based, but to wait until the path seems clear, until the time is right, to wait until we have prepared the way for ourselves and anyone else who will be affected by our action. The ability to act with mindfulness, intention, and care is a great aspect of the power of will, but so is the power to wait. Self-restraint is a tremendously valuable faculty of will. Acting from a highly developed ethical will delivers, or at least it has to me, a wonderful sense of being in the flow of life. Yet the full development of spiritual will takes us even further along the road to Christ awakening. Gradually, as trust in our co-creative relationship with Spirit grows, the desire to maintain this sense of oneness begins to underlie every decision we make, making us ready to accept our birthright, as we heard in the first chapter of Genesis, dominion over ourselves and the demands of the world. Jesus was such a great model for this process. He came to the Garden of Gethsemane full of fear and dread about what was going to happen. After spending the night in prayer and even seeing his beloved friends sleep through it, he was able to rise to the task ahead. Jesus' prayer in the garden was, "Thy will be done." But this was not a prayer of submission, as it is often depicted. Oh no. Rather, it was alignment of his human will with divine mind. Intentional alignment. A more accurate translation of the scripture might be, "My will and your will are one." An affirmation of absolute trust in the right outcome. Most of us were indoctrinated in a teaching that presents God as a stern, unyielding judge who arbitrarily allows disasters, illness, and pain, who seems to help some people, cure some people, and not others. From this belief system, the prayer, "Thy will be done," is said from a spirit of resignation, even a sense of hopelessness, personal helplessness. Even though we may intellectually accept that God is love, those old ideas may linger in our consciousness. Actually, I think it's surprising if they don't come up from time to time. They were so deeply ingrained in childhood. But in unity, we're learning to replace that old programming and integrate the greater idea that God is love and absolute good all the time in every situation. God does not will us to suffer. Suffering just seems to be part of the human condition, a condition that causes us to resist a lot of what we don't want or what feels bad. But faith in universal goodness and love can help us allow our pain and our loss to open our hearts and minds rather than close them down. To reach out rather than withdraw. And ultimately, to transform into more enlightened, compassionate, and authentic human beings. But I feel like I gotta warn you, had to think about this a lot lately. There's fine print. If God's will for you and me is good, then God's will for, and God's love for all people is absolute. I don't know about you, but I sometimes find this to be a very challenging idea indeed. How can I accept, much less love, people who through their stubborn willfulness do and say things that cause others to suffer? Charles Fillmore offers this guidance. When you find yourself confronted by a strong will that insists you go its way, turn within to the Christ, the spiritual core of your nature, and silently say to the other person, Namaste. The Christ in me beholds the Christ in you. Let the love of God and the understanding of the spiritual nature of that other person pour forth from you so strongly that there is no longer a conflict of wills. Instead, there is a higher power, a higher energy at work, establishing harmony and order in a way that I could never do it on my own. Oh my, I wonder if I'll ever get all the way there. But yes, it's true. And learning to live in alignment with divine will certainly does not mean that we must simply submit to the misguided, egotistical will of another. To the contrary, we can always say no. We can always speak our truth. It's just that ideally, we will not close our heart to the person or become distracted from doing the work, and I mean the material work, psychological, and the spiritual work that needs to be done by us. Fillmore cautions that our powers of understanding and will must be developed together and used cooperatively with one another. Understanding without will may know everything, but take no action at all. Will without understanding may lead us to act with force or be misguided in our action. In harmony with one another, the two faculties accomplish great things. Fillmore says, understanding decrees that action is needed. Will motivates us and determines how the action will be carried out. As we do the sacred work of learning to align our will with divine mind, we awaken to greater spiritual awareness and a deeper comprehension of truth. We find we're able to act confidently on our inner guidance without so much struggle. We're no longer dependent on the opinions of others to make our decisions, nor do we attempt to force our opinions on anyone else. It has been my experience that with conscious, intentional alignment with divine mind, we cannot fail, even if the outcome turns out to be different than the one we imagined. Again, as Reverend Todd reminded us last week, willingness is the key that opens the door. Willingness is a simple word, no? We think we understand it, but it is a profound quality of the soul that accepts and embraces life just as it is, moment by moment by moment. Willingness lives in the heart and soul. It can seem totally illogical to the intellect. It's like a man hanging from a sheer cliff. The skinny branch he is holding on to is gradually coming loose from the bush above him. There are hundreds of feet of jagged rocks below him. But just as the branch breaks away from the bush, the man notices a beautiful, ripe strawberry growing out of a crack in the rock. He grabs for it and pops it into his mouth. It is the most delicious strawberry he has ever tasted in his life. And he smiles because life is good and it ain't over yet. So I'll close today with a beautiful writing from our friend Rumi, writing on the quality of willingness. I just love this. I just love this. He writes, the closer I get to you, beloved, the more I see it is just you and I alone in this world. I hear a knock at my door. Who else could it be? So I rush to answer it without brushing my hair. For too many nights I have begged for your return. And what is the use of vanity at this late hour? At this divine season that has now come to my bended knees? Are your love letters true, dear God? All right then. I surrender myself to who you keep saying I am. Many blessings. And now let's let Deidre lead us into a time of reflection.
In the divine, I commit my spirit. God's will is my will. In the divine, I commit my spirit. God's will is my will. Heal me at death so that I may glorify God. Reveal that which needs to be revealed. Heal that which needs to be healed, so that I may glorify God. Into thy hands I commit my spirit. God's will is my will. Heal me at death so that I may glorify God. Reveal that which needs to be revealed. Heal that which needs to be healed, so that I may glorify God. So that I may glorify God.
Such a powerful prayer. And what a blessing it is. Just take a little time to be still. To be still with our feelings, still with our thoughts, still with the Spirit of the living Christ within us. So just relax now and take a lovely deep breath. Breathe in life. Affirm the source of all that is good is present, here, now, and always, within me and all around me. Our Creator has made us in its image directly out of itself. We cannot be separate from it, no matter what we do or don't do. There is no need to force anything. No need to fear when our plans don't work out. Our life is created out of God life. Our intelligence has been designed by divine mind our hearts know that we are loved. We need only trust the way that opens before us. Surrender to the wisdom of our lives. Accept the way things are with faith and humility and gratitude. Only then are we ready to take wise action. As we move into the silence, I'd invite us to affirm in our own hearts a beautiful prayer that we all know, the Serenity Prayer. Say this with me if you can. God, grant me the serenity to accept things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. In the silence. Serenity, courage, wisdom are yours and mine to receive anytime, anywhere, in every circumstance. For we are one with divine mind. We are open to information and guidance from the universe that is benevolent, that is here for us, that shows us the way every step of the way. May our arms and our hearts and our minds be open, and may our hearts be filled with gratitude. Amen.